After 23 months of negotiations and years of needless hostilities, the United States and Iran have finally come to an agreement over the nuclear issues inside Iran. The agreement has been reached, and many people, including myself, are calling this exactly what it is: a gigantic capitulation to imperialism. In the opinion of many people, Iran has surrendered its only ability to remain sovereign from U.S. imperialist aggression. Now, here are a few of the aspects of the nuclear accord. 15 years before they're allowed to produce nuclear weapons. 5 years before they can purchase military equipment. Continuation of a UN arms embargo for up to 5 more years. Iran to have access to over $100 billion when the deal is implemented. Iran will be entitled to sell enriched uranium in the international market. Iran's current capacity of 19,000 gas centrifuges would be reduced by more than 2/3 to 6,104, out of which just over 5,000 would be actively enriching uranium. All of them would be first-generation centrifuges based on technology going back to the 1950s. Furthermore, the first 15 years of the deal, Iran would not enrich beyond levels of 3.67% purity, low enriched uranium, or LEU, of the kind used in nuclear power stations. Iran's stockpile of LEU would be reduced from its current level of about 7,500 kilos to 300 kilos, a reduction of 96%. The reduction would be achieved either by shipping the uranium abroad or by diluting it. Inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency would have full access to all Iran's declared nuclear sites as at present, but with much more advanced technology than they are using now. Inspectors would be able to visit non-declared sites where they think nuclear work might be going on. A commission made up of a range of IAEA members would be set up to judge whether the inspectors' access requests are justified, and would take its decision by majority vote. As Iran takes the agreed steps listed above to reduce the capacity and proliferation risk of its nuclear infrastructure, the US and the EU would provide guarantees that financial and economic sanctions will be suspended or cancelled. The EU would stop its oil embargo and end its banking sanction, and Iran would be allowed to participate in the SWIFT electronic banking system that is the lifeblood of international finance. Barack Obama would issue a presidential waiver suspending the operations of US trade and financial sanctions. Being that this is such a historic moment, U.S. President Barack Obama spoke from the White House about the agreement, and he made some very interesting comments.
It's now more than 50 years since President Kennedy stood before the American people and said, "Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate." He was speaking then about the need for discussions between the United States and the Soviet Union, which led to efforts to restrict the spread of nuclear weapons. In those days, the risk was a catastrophic nuclear war between two superpowers. In our time, the risk is that nuclear weapons will spread to more and more countries, particularly in the Middle East, the most volatile region in our world.
The destabilization that the Middle East faces is a result of U.S. imperialism, or U.S. foreign policy. The situation in Syria, the situation in Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, and other places is a result of U.S. interference in the region. It seems they're saying they want to keep nuclear weapons out of the problems that they themselves are responsible for causing. So essentially, Iran has to foot the bill for the cleanup, or at least the prevention of the situation the U.S. caused from getting even worse.
In other words, no deal means no lasting constraints on Iran's nuclear program. Such a scenario would make it more likely that other countries in the region would feel compelled to pursue their own nuclear programs, threatening a nuclear arms race in the most volatile region of the world.
Well, what they mean is that other countries may follow the example set by Iran and start producing their own nuclear weapons to defend themselves from the United States. And as we've seen, the countries who didn't have nuclear weapons were the ones who ended up getting invaded by the U.S. And that's what they really fear here. Some kind of regional coalition in the Middle East that would stand up to U.S. imperialism. And the way that they would do that is by possessing nuclear weapons.
We will continue our unprecedented efforts to strengthen Israel's security, efforts that go beyond what any American administration has done before.
Well, what this means is that the U.S. will continue to support the Israeli genocide of Palestinians. Israel has always been a bastion of U.S. power in the region, has always been a representative of U.S. imperialist interests. because without the US and Germany as well, Israel could not exist. So their continued support for the country to defending that country is essentially to make sure that their one semi-permanent foothold would remain in the region, and that maybe one day some kind of bloc or coalition of Arab countries might actually stand up to the United States, and particularly Israel, and the tremendous crimes against humanity that it actually carries out. So in keeping with Israel and its role within this conflict, this nuclear proliferation situation, speaking about the agreement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was not pleased with it. This agreement is a historic mistake for the world. I say to all the leaders in Israel, it is time to put petty politics aside and unite behind the most fateful issue to the future and security of the state of Israel. And there's a very specific reason for this. One of the few bastions of opposition to Israeli treatment of Palestinians has been Iran, and Iran has essentially sold its national sovereignty to the United States with this deal. It's been a complete and total capitulation. Now it completely lacks any ability to stop the United States from invading its country should they ever choose to do so, which they have been threatening to do for a very long time, in which new people who are looking ahead to the next U.S. election have been threatening to invade the country, are also now doing. This has been a straight-up capitulation. Iran has essentially sold its ability to defend itself. And that's what this whole agreement is actually about. Every single country that didn't have nuclear weapons has become a victim. Libya never had nuclear weapons. Syria never had nuclear weapons. Iraq never had them, even though it was claimed that they had them. Afghanistan didn't have them. All of these countries are now victims of U.S. imperialism because they maintained no ability to defend themselves. To sacrifice such a potent weapon as nuclear weapons is an insane thing to do in this age, and particularly in this stage of the development of U.S. imperialism, which is one that is becoming more and more desperate given the falling rate of profit and the ongoing hostilities between Russia and other powers. U.S. imperialism is feeling a little bit challenged and is getting more aggressive as time goes on, as Americans are continuing to look the other way when their country goes to war in these situations, including now the situation going on in Yemen. This is not a good thing. This has been a terrible advancement for Iran, and has placed itself in tremendous danger by following these sanctions, which have been pretty much forced on the country by the financial and economic embargoes that were placed against the country. If you like this video and you'd like to see more of them, then head over to my Patreon page and show your support. Or you can go to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media.